Here we
It's
are.
live now. We have
Oh
a
my
total
God.
of 0 viewers. That's okay. We give them time. They will come.
Right.
They
Rome was
always.
not built in a day.
I heard differently. I heard it was built in just a couple of hours.
Well, I guess the jury's out on that. I mean, no one really
Jury.
knows. No one
That's
was
a very
there.
good point. That's a very good point. Well, let me get the show started. So give me 1 minute. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Uncertainty Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Leffler, and this is the Uncertainty Hour. In this program, I find time to talk with people that I find interesting, that are leading the edge on something, and I want to have that moment to share with you. Last week, we started off the episode with a quote, and the quote was from a guy named George Estabrooks, and the quote went something like this: "Someday, the radio will be looked at as a fascinating tool for mass hypnotism. Replace radio with cell phone and you get the general idea." Today's quote that we're starting off this episode with is from my good friend, George Orwell. It reads, quote, "And if all of the others accepted the lie which the party imposed, if all records told the same tale, then the lie passed into history and became truth. Who controls the past," ran the party slogan, "controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past." And as we talk about control in media, we look at our experts for help. And so today, I have a very special guest, a friend that I've had for most of my adult life and much of my childhood, Dr. Michael James DiMarco. Dr. DiMarco, Dr. Mike.
Hey,
How
how
are
you
you?
doing?
Doing
Good. How are you?
fantastic.
Excellent.
I am excited to have you on the program. How's your
Thank
day
you.
going?
So far, pretty great. I've been really looking forward to this. I love what you're up to.
We're trying to find new ways to communicate about this world that we live in. And last week we were joined by Judge Aquilina, a sitting judge in Ingham County. Today I have a doctor, a real life doctor. So tell me,
Yeah.
how long have you
about
been
that?
practicing medicine?
So I graduated med school in 2013, and then I had residency. It lasted 3 years.
So how long is med school to begin with?
4 years.
Okay. And then after you've done the 4 years, you're not done. You have to do more.
You do, yeah, you're training. So for me, I went into family medicine, and that residency was 3 years. But if you say went into general surgery or neurosurgery or some other thing, then it could be a lot longer residency. And then sometimes even after that, you have to do a fellowship, which is even more specialized training.
So tell me,
yeah, it's great. It's very quick, very quick.
What is in and out, right? How long is residency that you did?
3 years.
Okay, so you had undergraduate, and then you had medical school for 4 years, and then you had 3 years of residency. And where did you do your residency?
I did my residency at Kaiser Permanente in San Diego. It's excellent.
Pretty low-key affair, really? I'd imagine. San Diego seems pretty quiet, right?
Oh, yeah. And there's not much going on in San Diego. So, it was very quiet. Yeah, it was a lot of time to study.
What surprised you about residency?
Well, I guess I guess I don't really know. It was
how many hours? What's a day in the life of a resident look like?
Well, so the first year of residency is very, very busy. They cap you out at 80 hours, a week. But they,
wow,
it's pretty. You get pretty close to some of those marks oftentimes. But yeah, it's different in every residency. You basically. For family medicine, you have your own family medicine panel, or you have your own kind of patients and that you follow. And basically after that, then every month is like a new job pretty much. Okay. So you go in the ER, you're in the hospital.
I can't imagine what thing. So I was going to title this episode kind of like jokingly doc to doc, because I've been working in supply chain now for for a while. But I got to remind myself, you and I, oh yeah, there we got a comment here from Danielle. Yeah. 80-hour week.
Yeah,
That's right.
nuts.
That's the world. Oh, we got Ingrid Brown. Good afternoon. Hello, Dr. DiMarco.
Oh, hello.
So let's talk about what it is in emergency rooms. So in my world, my people who are watching this, we know what an unplanned event looks like. We know truck breaks down, your tire blows, you have troubles at the shipper, there's some delays, you have to get on the phone, you have to make a lot of phone calls. What is it like in an emergency room? Like, how much do you know about the patient before they get there? Or do you just get in there and it's happening right that second?
Well, yeah, certainly the latter happens, very often. I mean, those are, traumas and things like that. But and you just are, going about the way that you were trained. Luckily, I, don't. I'm not in those kind of high acuity situations, and never really wanted to be. So that's not part of my practice.
So
oh, sure, yeah, and so the emergency room, it depends, most of the time, people will have some file on them, where you can kind of quickly peruse their history and, all that sort of stuff. But a lot of it's just, you do the steps, you assess the patient, you take the history, your training takes over in those kind of high stakes situations.
See, as a lawyer, I did practice in some of the like catastrophic accidents or in toxic tort litigation, and you'd get to expose yourself to these challenging things, and it's so hard. Like, I know for doctors, I know it's probably true I know it's for lawyers. I assume it's true for doctors that the rates of depression and substance abuse and alcoholism is very high, and I don't know why that is, but I feel like when you stare into that abyss, it kind of stares back. So how do you, in your own practice, how do you decompress from these moments with patients that probably have really challenging things happening?
It's really hard. And I've experienced burnout and depression, anxiety as a result of all of these things, just like anybody would. And there's always the misconception that doctors are somehow superhuman, that we're just supposed to kind of deal with it. And oftentimes if there's a professional, doctor, lawyer, anybody, accountant, anybody in the, who's very highly functional, tends to view any of those things as a threat to their livelihood and career. So oftentimes people just fester with these mental health situations that, it's better to deal with them head on, which is, I guess that's more of my experience. When I've felt that way in the past, I just, I try to be honest about it and, upfront to the people that need to, hear about it. And I've been extremely blessed with really great support personally from a lot of people within residency, my current employer. But yeah, definitely, it takes its toll, and it's it can affect every facet of your life. So
the advice would be, don't bury it deep and just ignore it. That's not the right way.
That's complete. Yeah, if you're having feelings like that, let somebody close to you, know about it. Try to seek any help. Either a lot of employers have assistance programs, and I was very skeptical of those things, back in the day, because it's like I didn't believe that it'd be confidential, or
sure.
I feel like somebody would hear about it, or somebody's getting and paying a bill somewhere.
Well, we don't talk about mental health enough, and I think it's a great point you make. Now, the thing is, as a doctor myself, for anyone watching at home, I have a Juris Doctor. It's not the same as a 4-year medical degree and a 3-year residency. It's close. It's close. But I can't stare into the mirror and scream, "Physician, heal thyself." So is that something you can do? Can you cure yourself of these things, or is it something it probably not the way it works?
Well, you could do that. I don't know if it would be terribly effective, but I don't know. Maybe there's a personality out there that is, and maybe there's a lot of denial a lot of times. Like, so maybe that is a good first step. Just accept that you have something going on. Look at yourself in the mirror and say that. And the next things I guess you should say would be that you're worth it, and you're worth trying to figure out a good solution.
We've had such a light conversation so far. Many of the people who are watching us, we've been talking for an hour before we even started this. So just understand, Mike and I are good friends. Let me ask you this. COVID, right? What's up with that? I mean, it seems like it's over now. Is that the official line? What should I know? What should I be afraid of? That's my real question.
Well, I guess I should preface any of these conversations with, these are not the official positions of my current employer, and as always, subject to change, as we've all grown accustomed to. But yeah, I don't know. Fear is a really big word. I don't think there's anything to be really fearful of. I think you can exercise caution if you have, underlying health conditions, and have something that should you be infected, it could be, very, very bad for you. Then obviously you're playing with a different set of criteria than, say, 20-year-old healthy kid. But yeah, currently, we've seen a little uptick, at least, and every place is a little different. Where I'm located, we had a little uptick, but not a huge uptick in severe cases. There's a lot of therapeutics available for the more scary situations, I guess, theoretically, that could arise from a severe infection. But yeah, it's thankfully, we bent, but we didn't break in terms of a healthcare system. But I'm not even going to lie, it continues to be a challenge. We're still dealing with the after effects. We have no staffing, or staffing's difficult. So every part of the healthcare system is still feeling the effects, even if you're not gonna necessarily be on a, depending on your current situation, the odds of you being on a ventilator are low.
Yeah, and this is a comment from Danielle saying that you've heard it's like regular flu, but for people with underlying conditions, it can be more significant. And I think that's probably fair. I have a question. So one of the things I learned recently is, like, in the medical field, you guys also have a lot of things like non-competition agreements and non-solicitation agreements. I had no idea. It's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
So in my side of the world, we have these documents. They're everywhere. People are making $30,000, $40,000 a year brokering freight or doing sales and having commissions and all this, but signing these documents that allow them to not be able to do their jobs. It is crazy. How pervasive are they from your experience in the medical business?
I think they're extremely common. I'm not somebody that asks a lot of people about the specific jobs, but in my research, when I was looking at contract, like going through a contract and stuff, that's a pretty common. But I will say, every area is different. So where we are, there's 2 or 3 competing healthcare systems, so it's really meant more to kind of tamp down on competition within the area, as opposed to kind of making you you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's,
we got a question from the audience. We got a question from the audience.
Oh.
Here it is. It's from Latanya Armstrong. Latanya, I adore you. Thank you for watching. Great conversation, Matt and Dr. D. Question: can the current home test kits adequately detect each strain of the virus? Mike, I don't think I have an opinion that matters.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question, because definitely they're the home kits, which so this is going to sound silly, but
nothing you say sounds silly. You are a doctor.
They work best. This is going to sound really silly. Then
I can't wait to hear the answer. I can't wait. You're teasing us.
They work best when they're positive. So if you get a positive, then the likelihood that you have COVID is very, very good. If you test the home kit and you test a negative, that doesn't necessarily rule out COVID. So it's not it. So in that sense, a positive test is far more useful than a negative, which I know it seems obvious, but
interesting.
But yeah, but the home kits we have noticed, probably not as sensitive as with previous strains of the virus. So yeah, like I said, if you have a positive at home, you probably have it. If you have a negative at home, you should probably go get a PCR if you have symptoms that are consistent with COVID. If you don't have symptoms consistent with COVID, then you probably don't have COVID.
This is going to be like a Jeff Foxworthy style thing. You might have COVID. If you get a positive result, you might have COVID. If you get a negative test, you might still have COVID. Okay, speaking of positive and negative, I have a question for you. So I recently ate a magnet, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
So magnets are very polarizing as a subject.
That's a good point you made. That's a very good point. So I mean, what can magnets do for us? What's the untapped potential of magnets?
There's an unheard of amount of untapped potential in magnets. I can't even begin to think about why are we not using magnets more? I mean, we use MRIs.
They're giant magnets, right?
Exactly. Around. So I imagine having tiny little magnets would be even better. And this is really good logic.
So one of the things I talk about a lot in this broadcast is about technology, how technology has changed the way a given industry works. So for me in the law side, we used to have books. We don't really have them anymore. They're decorations generally, and they have computers that can do the research.
They look nice.
And I have to imagine, like in the world of medicine, the technology that's coming, the wearable things people have that can communicate information about your health. What have you seen in the last couple of years that have been interesting or strange, or what are your things you're concerned about?
Yeah. So I think there's been a lot of interesting new devices for sure. For the rings that you wear to biosensors on the skin or, other things like, but yeah, I think like the most common ones or the ones that I guess we encounter the most frequently will be, the watch that says my heart rate is consistently at, X, is that a problem? Right. Or, it's saying that my heartbeats are regular. Is that a problem?
Now, you are just repeating the things that you and I talked about before, because that's what I do every day. I just send you the data from the watch that I have. So
I get the daily EKG or that, we look just to make sure,
Just log in. Do you have any concerns about like the companies that have this access to the data, like Oura Ring or the Apple Watch? Like, is that something that patients should be thinking about? Or is it more like, let's just get the technology and we'll figure out the ethics of it later?
Yeah, if you're asking me as a medical professional, I would say absolutely you should be concerned with your personal health information being broadcast to God knows who. But as a person, I would also say you should be very scared about who knows things about you. So I think I'm a privacy person. So. I would say that, those sorts of things, if, we kind of talked about it a little briefly, like those ancestry DNAs, like,
that's right.
Just everybody just putting their, basically, I mean, what's more personal than your DNA code? Social security number, we guard crazily. But our DNA, we just give it to anybody that asks for it.
I find it fascinating. So few people, I use this with a topic on Elon Musk trying to acquire Twitter and what that looks like and what kind of First Amendment rights you might have on something like a social media platform. And I remind people, these are private businesses. They are not First Amendment things. This is a private company you've given information to who then gets to do what they want with it. And in the law, we had a thing called third-party disclosure doctrine. So if I'm telling you a secret and all these people are watching, I've disclosed that secret to the third party and it's no longer secret. And I find it fascinating because these ancestry.com stuff and just things like that, they get subpoenaed. People have to give data, like Google and Amazon, they all get subpoenaed for records, and they have a duty in some cases to keep that stuff. It's fascinating to know what people are willing to give up to somebody they have no idea. I mean, at the end of, like, I work very hard on a medium-sized screen every day, and then I relax with a large screen and sometimes with a smaller screen. And that's kind of what I do. And all that information, there are thousands of engineers sitting behind watching and saying, I don't want him to leave. Every 4 minutes, the iPhone is sending information back to Apple about us. Isn't that exciting? Does that make you feel good? Does that make you feel excited?
Well, I want to know when, a new pair of shoes is, ready for me to look at, so I'm always interested in the newest anything. So I'm glad that they're telling me every 2 minutes.
All you have to do is give them all your personal data.
In a second. Yeah, it's great. It's a trade-off. I get some neat shoes. It's put me in a statistical computer. It's great.
It makes
it makes it so much easier.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about things like WebMD. So I find WebMD fascinating because you start off with a website that just, you go there and you search something. So there's a search that you do and it knows something about search. And then it caters the results probably to some level of information about you specifically. In your practice, like, is this something you encounter a lot, or is it, because I imagine someone comes and says, hey, I printed this off. Is this what I have? But I'd love to know your thoughts on that.
Well, so I have, my thoughts are, my usual spiel is that I am happy that someone has taken the interest in their own health enough to go and research, and see what could be wrong with them, because that's a good place to start. And I'm not, so I don't know. I don't have the same animus towards WebMD than I think, some of my colleagues may. I view it as the more information I think people come in with, the more the easier it actually makes my job in a sense. It's the people that come in that know they have this and they know this is the right diagnosis and they know they need usually an antibiotic. And that's, that I think is more troublesome than the person who's, hey, I noticed this. This is what I was kind of looking at, I think that's actually, I don't know. I like it. I'm not against more information is good. Sometimes. Although Google Images, I'm not a fan of. People Google it, like people Google image something, and it's like the worst case of anything. I don't know. It could be pretty.
Okay, I have a question that's going to lead into my next thing. So this is from Danielle saying, all the screen time I think can make us adult have ADHD. Do you know of any research that would support this, or is this in her head? So can you get ADHD from staring at the screens? And what I want to kind of, before we answer that question, one of the things that we talked about before is that both of us have young children. Our young kids, they don't know what it's like to be bored. I mean, all of us here, and I assume everyone watching remembers what it's like. There's nothing to do and you're left alone in your thoughts. But in this world of distractions, constant distractions, how do people, understand, like, how do you avoid those things? How do you moderate them? And can you have some adverse effect from too much screen time?
So the pendulum on, well, I shouldn't call it a pendulum, but I think the consensus on screen time, at least from the pediatric standpoint, is the American Academy favors limiting screen time. And then they give arbitrary numbers of hours. And then when it comes to ADHD and the connection to screen time, it's a chicken or egg kind of scenario. So I think it's a really interesting, I'm sure there's research out there. I'm not aware, or I'm not privy to, I don't know any of it off the top of my head. But I think it's interesting. There's no doubt that social media, our technology, has had some impact on our, psychological
It's
development.
also fascinating. Just I was watching. We've been talking about this, the docu series or whatever they call it, Dope Sick on Hulu with I think Michael Keaton. But the idea of like pharmaceutical companies advertising, like in most of the Western world, they are very significantly limited by what they're able to do. And in our environment, it's like, ask your doctor about this medication. And it's like,
Oh yeah.
well, because I guess the idea being is like, you doctors are just so busy. You don't have time to stay on top of what's happening in modern medicine. So it's important that a pharmaceutical company tells you what problem you have so you can go to the doctor and say, can you tell me more about this drug that I think I need? What are your, I'd love you to opine on that.
There's some, yeah, there's some truth to that. In the sense that, well, the industries are in bed together, like, health systems, pharma, like they are the ones that are doing the research. They're trying to, use their statistics to say my product is better than this product, et cetera, et cetera. And, that does kind of remove some of the, difficulties of having to look at like every single article ever, that comes out. So there's that side of it. The other side of it, I would say is that when people, let's just say for diabetes, so I'm interested in starting Ozempic for my diabetic patient because I believe that particular type of medicine would be really good for their scenario, and it's covered, which is a whole other thing.
But, we should talk about that soon.
Yeah.
We'll plant a flag in that one. We'll come back.
Yeah, because it's a multifaceted situation. But so it'll either go one of two ways. Well, three ways, I guess. Well, it would be, oh yeah, I heard about Ozempic on TV. I'm willing to try that. Or it'll be like, isn't that TV ad that I saw? And they'll be very against it. And so,
okay.
so it can go both ways. And then somebody's like, what the hell is Ozempic? That's probably the majority of the cases. But
okay.
But yeah, sometimes the advertising is helpful. I would say most of the time it's, if there was a doctor only channel, I would get it. But like, they get so specific. Some of the things they advertise.
We need a doctor only channel. Why isn't that not a thing?
Yeah.
Okay, let's make a note on that. The doctor.
There we go. Yeah.
That would include me, right? That would include the
juris doctors, doctors of education, everybody that's,
it was a PhD. Okay. I was gonna say,
but yeah, definitely I think that the overall, like they get so specific on the advertising. It'll be like for those with like hepatocellular carcinoma type blank who are on platinum based therapies, this is the thing for you. And it's like, okay, there's like a couple hundred people, that this is applying to, but I have to listen to 30 seconds of side effects. So thanks. Like,
that's the part that
I'm trying to watch TV.
It might cause trying to cure a headache, and it might cause paralysis.
Yeah,
we talked about antibiotics a little bit ago, and that's been a thing that I'm always curious about. So I probably once a quarter, I'll see an article. It's like, this is the end. This is the antibiotic resistant bacteria that will destroy humanity. And I go, finally, they've been talking about this for so long. I'm glad it's finally here. And then it's not. But I do understand the desire that maybe it is. Like, maybe I'm wrong. I'm willing to be wrong on this. Tell me, like, what do we need to know about antibiotic resistant bacteria? And should we want more antibiotics? Should we try to not use them? I'm curious.
Well, I think that, just the general, a general rule would be, minimizing the use of, anything. So if, you don't need something, you probably shouldn't take it, whether it's an antibiotic or anything, a supplement, there's just if you're just doing nothing, then I don't know why you're doing it. And such is the cases of antibiotics and viral illnesses, which is the most common thing that we encounter, that is the most frustrating, because it's hard to explain to somebody who's feeling really terrible that, yeah, it's a virus. And up until COVID, I don't know if people really understood what that even meant, like what a virus is capable of. But
That's
but
right.
now now that we're in the post-COVID, still people don't understand what a virus is. They know they need an antibiotic.
I see.
And
So
it's
for the people watching, the antibiotic will likely not do anything useful against a virus
well, you're
unless
likely to
unless
get
you believe it.
that's part, so there maybe there's a placebo,
That's what
but
I'm thinking. Maybe I feel better because I took the antibiotic.
yeah, well, but the thing is most of the time in a viral illness, it'll last a week, 5 to 7 days, and you'll get over it. You'll usually go in because the third day, oh my God, I can't even believe what's happening to me. I need an antibiotic. You'll get an antibiotic, and then you'll be on it for a day or two, and naturally you're going to get better, regardless of whether you took the antibiotic or not. But in your mind, because you went and got it, and you're currently taking it, you think that was what.
Well,
Really
so I'm wondering, we got a question here or a comment from Barry saying it's hard to advertise medicines because, yep, that's what they're fixing to say. They're fixing the problem, but the side effects can be worse than the actual thing you're trying to get rid of. When it comes to
so true.
Yeah, and Spider-Man. So what I wonder about is is there a worry that we should have, like in the hospital settings, these antibiotic resistant bacteria? Because bacteria, the Black Plague, the Black Death was a bacteria. I mean, bacteria are rough and tumble organisms. So what is the thinking in terms of bacteria resistant to antibiotics?
It's like the same like with you don't worry about it till it happens to you. So it's not something that you encounter. If you're just a normal person walking around and just living your life, you're probably not going to be thinking about multi-drug resistant bacteria.
I do think about that, but point taken.
Okay, yeah, some of us who are of the more neurotic side, I guess, might think about that.
I'll accept that.
Hey, no, not a criticism. Just,
I want to talk about amoebas in my brain. Okay, good.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
We'll get to that one next. The amoebas in the brain.
Neti pots. Yeah.
Don't
shoot. Yeah.
Should you boil the water? Okay, so we're gonna everyone. We're Mike and I. We're gonna take a moment to step away from the antibiotic resistant bacteria and focus a little bit more on amoebas that can enter your brain and do significant damage. So it's pretty rare. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. Maybe one a year. But it's still, I mean, or someone please throw in, if the chat, if you can research it, Google like how many people die from amoebas in the brain a year, throw that in the chat. I'd love that. But let's just say it's a number above one, and that's enough to terrify me. And it usually happens in a lake or something like that, and you get the amoeba, and then you have it.
Swim in holes.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do they do to the brain? What do they do? What do they do to the brain? The amoeba.
Well, I believe they just go up there and what is it? Puree your brain. I think they just go and spin around a lot in your skull.
Is that a medical term? Is that what it is?
Yeah. No. Yeah. This is just pure medicine. This is just like this is in Harrison's. This is like commonly known. Yeah. So they spin really, really fast in your brain, unless you have a magnet. So if you're ingesting magnets, it stops.
So should we proactively install magnets into our brains?
It couldn't hurt.
An ounce of prevention. Okay, so back to the neti pot.
This is not medical. These are
it's not medical advice. This is not. I will say this is also not legal advice. There is nothing in this conversation to establish a legal or attorney-client privilege. Let's go back to the neti pot then. So, like, would it be better just to not use a neti pot, or should you boil the water before you put a neti pot? Because I'm looking for sponsors.
Distilled water. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I have
looking for sponsors. Yeah. Neil Sinus Rinse, great product. Absolutely perfect.
For anyone watching, this would be the moment, or there might have been several moments in the course of this conversation where we would have paused for a brief commercial break. Whether I read something or something was presented to the audience, we are always willing to find partners that want to advertise and talk about the products and services that will bring value to your customers and your stakeholders. Because at the end of the day, we're all trying to sell something, aren't we? That was my pitch. Does that sound reasonable?
I mean, it's accurate. You're lying to yourself otherwise.
So one of the things that
But
you and I share is the having to work with insurance companies as a part of your client. And I often have this discussion with people that are either soon to be lawyers or young attorneys, and they're like, listen, uh, why is it that the client is this person, but the person paying for everything is this insurance company? And the person that I have to talk to every day is the adjuster. I talk to the insurance company. Who is the client? Now, in the legal context, the client is the person who is insured. The insurance company is an intermediary who pays the bills, but your client is that individual. I suspect it's similar, but insurance companies are weird. So tell me, you work a lot with insurance companies. Your field works a lot with insurance companies. What is that like? How do you balance the concern for what's insured, what's not insured, and how do you help a client understand that or patient understand that?
So that's an excellent, yeah. And one misconception I think people have with doctors and insurance companies is that somehow I get some kind of kickback, or I am asked to use this particular medicine, or I'll get some kind of something. I will benefit somehow. But really, modern days, we're very insulated from the insurance companies in the financial sense. So basically what I do when I see a patient and I, complete a visit, it goes to the billing office. The billing office makes any adjustments and then sends their, whatever the bill is over to the insurance company, and then the insurance company reimburses. So I'm not really in that part of things, but I do, have to deal with what a particular plan may cover versus somebody else. So going
I'm
back
gonna
to
have
the
to.
Ozempic,
I
oh,
gotta cut
sorry,
you off
yeah,
for a second. I gotta cut you off for a second.
sure,
The report says about 16 people a year.
wow,
97% die.
yeah.
Why aren't we talking about this? Why are not we panicking and rioting in the streets over amoebas
Well,
in the brain?
I think
Is
rioting
this the
is
big
the
amoeba
best.
lobby?
It is big amoeba, yeah. Big amoeba is,
I knew
uh,
it.
and the parameciums too have a crazy lobby. Those, all
If
those
I see
flagellates. And it's,
if I see one more flagellum, I am going to be I'm not going to be happy. That's what's going to happen. Cell walls, forget that.
so
Ribosomes.
I know, come on, yeah,
You need the powerhouse of the
jeez,
cell. I like
yeah,
my
yeah, the
endoplasmic
mitochondria.
reticulum rough. That's what I want,
Oh
Joey.
yeah, no,
I
I
want
like the
those ribosomes.
ribosomes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I
This is
want as
only we're really good at this. We're really good at this. The the
solid,
the,
very
the
good.
audience is just
People love
elated.
ribosomes. Yeah,
They
I've been hearing
do. They
about
do. If
that.
you don't know what those
Yeah.
things are, it's cellular biology. I took a class a long time ago. I am not a biologist in any meaningful sense, but I would say that I am I'm an enthusiast.
Hey, you're a doctor too, so you
Let's talk
have
about being a
a.
doctor. So, every 2 years, I have to complete 30 hours of continuing legal education. So, the thing I want everyone to know, no one really understands what it is to be an attorney, what it is to be a doctor, and the hope for this conversation is to give people some context of what it is that we do. So, we have to do as lawyers continuing education, and we have to report that to the state, and the state will validate you've completed these things, and then they'll issue you your license and you pay for the license annually, and that's kind of the way it works. Is there something similar in terms of continuing education for doctors?
Oh yeah, so we call them CMEs, or continuing medical education. You have to do a certain percentage of them have to be live or in a session. Then you have to complete these other things called KSAs, which are multiple choice questions, and then a performance improvement project, and that's on a every 3 year cycle. And then you sit for the board, another board exam every 10 years.
Oh, you have to
So yeah,
retake
it's.
your stuff?
And then every state has their own CME. So I'm licensed in 2 states, so I get double the awesome when it
Oh, that's
comes to.
awesome.
Yeah, it's great. Luckily, I have a very good employer, so they help me with these things. But if you wanted to be just private practice, I guess. Those are costs that I don't know. It's annoying. It's a way to keep people out.
Yeah, I could say in the legal space,
which is all right. There's pros and cons to that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, at least on the law side, we don't really have the mandate for in-person, at least for Illinois. All I know is Illinois. So it's all, for the most part, been virtual, or it's available to be done virtually. But it's important for people to know, like, we don't stop. Like, we have to continue to understand. That's why we call it practicing. It's not like you're done. Like, oh, we passed it. The human body hasn't changed in a couple thousand years. We're not gonna worry about that. So if you were going to give advice to a medical student, what kind of advice would you give them?
If they're
they've already signed the debt, they've already signed the loans, they've already agreed to the thing.
That would be
so you can't help them now. That's at that part.
Yeah, they're already trapped. Then so if you're already they already got you.
They got you.
Then I would say you got to find something that brings you some fulfillment. You have to take something positive, otherwise it's going to be a very short career. If there's things you don't like, there's things everybody doesn't like, obviously. But you have to have something that you like, though. And so I guess my advice would be to be honest with yourself and not like things because other people like them, or because it would be easier if you like them and you think you can delude yourself into doing that. No, just be real. And if you don't like it, then get out as soon as you can, because there's no point, and life's too short. It's not worth it.
The advice I often give law students is, don't use the student loan money to buy alcohol. That's like a simple piece of advice. Like, yes. Yeah, the government will give you as much money as you want.
Oh yeah.
That $10 drink will cost you $500. If you wait and totally pay that off over time. But the thing is, like, so I'll walk through as we talked about what it takes to be a doctor. I'll walk through what it takes to be a lawyer. So as a lawyer and a doctor, you both have to go to an undergraduate institution. You had to do something. Now, in the medical profession, you probably need to be studying a topic in undergrad that has some relevancy to science or medicine or biology. Law, not the case. I was a political science person, political theory, not really necessary to be a lawyer. Then you take a test. So you guys have is it the MCAT? Is that the test you take? So you take the MCAT, we take the LSAT, which is just the law school admissions test. And then your GPA and your test score is how you get to the next thing, which is the actual, the school. Lawyers, we have 3 years. Doctors, you have 4 years. Once we finish our 3 years, we then take a bar exam, and we have an ethics exam that happens separately, or could happen in the same time span. Then you're a lawyer, then you're practicing. You guys, 4 years, and then you take the board exams. And how long are the boards? How many days is that exam?
So there's multiple steps to the board exam. So there's step 1, step 2, step 3.
Oh, I love that.
I know.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
There's also one in which, and I don't even, like, it's been a few years. So anyway, there's paid actors who will pretend to have some ailment.
Why did I get that?
And you have to spend thousands of dollars and time to go and, show that you're capable of, I don't know, being a human for a moment. And then after that, then you have the real board exam. That's like in residency. So there's multiple little hurdles along the way. If you don't like taking tests, then this is a really, and I actually, to go back to, you don't need to necessarily be in the sciences to go into med school. I think it helps, obviously. But if you have, you can have literally any degree, and still, theoretically could get into,
as long as you crush that test.
Crush the test. You gotta, it depends on where like everything, who where you are, what the,
and then you have the residency is. Then you have the 80-hour work days that go on for 3 years.
And you work in the snow and the, it's like a mile to the hospital and back, because they don't let you're not allowed to live. No, I'm just kidding. You can live next to the hospital. But yeah, it's a long haul.
Well, and then once you're out there, I mean, you get to meet patients. So let's talk about what you do. Like, so you're a family doctor. You're working with patients on a continuing basis. You're monitoring their health from, when you start seeing you to whenever they either leave this mortal coil or they go on, they move somewhere. So what is it like to be working with someone in that capacity? Like, as a long-term patient, you're monitoring a whole bunch of things, I suspect.
It's very gratifying. Although I will say, currently I'm not in that practice. With
Okay.
COVID, I moved into urgent care. So
Oh,
I've been doing urgent care for the last almost a year. But the relationships and that's what the thing that I love. Like that was the thing that I loved my patients. It was wonderful. It's unlike any relationship, I think, that it's hard to explain. But that's the thing that kept me going, and it's still I love that.
the thing I love about is the relationship of the doctor and the patient, and the same with the attorney and the client, is this fiduciary obligation. It's this, I get to take my own will and throw it away because I'm just here for you. I am here to
That's
help
right.
you
Awesome.
achieve the
Yeah.
goal that you have. How can I help you be the best version of yourself? And you just got to eat healthier. And they're like, no, doc, I don't think I can do it. You just got to not say
Not
that
gonna
to
do
your
that.
ex-wife. Don't say that. Oh, no, you did. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm glad you didn't listen to me, but I still love you. Still love you.
That's right. That's right.
But I'm disappointed. And I would think like that urgent care
There's like
is a lot like so I'm talking about maintenance now. When a thing breaks down and unplanned happens, it feels like urgent care is kind of like that. So I'm guessing like workers that get injured at their job. It could be someone who's just doing a backyard project, or they wake up and something's hurting and they want to come see you. Is that kind of what urgent care looks like?
Yeah, or they're, coughing for a couple of weeks. They've gone through antibiotics. They don't know what else to do, and you get a chest X-ray, and it's a big fat cancer. So you get everything. Every step in the way. People are having a difficult time getting into primary care doctors just because there's so many patients relative to how many practitioners there are. So a lot of them are, hey, we've already tried this. I don't know what else to do. I can't get in for another couple of weeks, but I am feeling this way. What's going on?
What really stood out for me there was the visual in my mind of the X-ray and showing that there's some sort of cancer has progressed.
Yeah,
How
that's a tough visit.
how do you do it? How are you able to say, like, hey, I see this thing, and let's say that it's worst case scenario, you're going to die from this. How do you have that conversation? How do you prep yourself for having that conversation?
Well, I guess I usually approach it because so usually when I see something or catch something, so whenever I catch anything like that, usually it's in the stages of, well, we don't know exactly what the nature of this growth is. We need to get more information. You got to do, further workup, and then we can put together kind of a more of a prognosis, or, something at least to tell a patient to kind of mentally prepare for. But the initial conversation is, you just say, hey, have some news I'm not really happy to share with you today, but you just have to be on it. I think people, or at least, maybe I'm projecting, but I like it when people are more direct, not like jerk direct, but like, just say this is what I see, and this is what I think. And if you put it plainly and supportive, and you want to make sure you're not you're making them feel like they're not abandoned, or they're we're gonna be doing this, we're gonna get more info, we're gonna try to it's not a death sentence initially, certainly. But then, when you see the patients that are, more advanced, and I did that more in, family practice side of things. It's
And
about
hospice care too.
And hospice. Hospice is it's a whole other situation. But yeah, definitely with family practice, it's, supportive. And like you said, you have a duty to, optimism and hope are all very important parts of healing. So I think that you have to project that.
Well, let me think about this. So let's pull back a little bit and think about when you're faced with a challenge. And let's look at, like, you have to deliver this terrible news. Now you know it's going to happen. What do you do when you're done? Like, let's say you've given the news, you've had the hard conversation. Does that follow you? Does that, because, like, I'll give my example for myself. Like, I used to defend chemical companies in the manufacture of certain chemicals. It would do really horrifying things to people that were exposed to it. And I found myself drinking so much. And I said, this is unsustainable. I didn't think I had the ability to cover that and say, I can live with the things that I see and I cannot take that home. How does that work for you? How do you unplug from that?
It's an ongoing battle is a very dramatic word, but it's an ongoing thing. I don't know. Every situation's different. People, myself included, drinking, there are good ways, there's good ways and there's not good ways. That Absolutely. Is not a good way.
Absolutely.
I have a very supportive wife, and
Sarah's awesome, by the way.
Yeah, she's very, she's very important to me. I think I'm not one to, I talk like, so it's annoying. I'll just say what I think, and it just helps to process it, Yeah. So I think when you hold things in is when things start to, get worse. You have to pay the piper sometimes. So you'll deliver, you're either gonna like deal with something that's been festering, or you're just gonna, deal with it at the moment.
That kind of gets me to another question I was going to ask you about is, so we go to parties, right? You go to a party, everyone wants to go talk to the doctor. They say, hey, I have this thing I want to talk to you about. Like, is that like, do you find comfort in that? Cause I get that all the time. Like, hey, I got this thing, this lawsuit. You look at it. Like,
sure.
Wow. What do you want to talk about? What's the retainer? Do you get that? Do you find that interesting? Like, how should people treat doctors when they meet them in private life? Like,
you should talk to them like anybody else.
Okay.
I don't know. Everybody's different. My personally, like, if there's something I could do to be of any help, then I'll be happy to talk. But if there's something that I don't think I'm going to be able to help you with, then, I'd probably change the subject, but in a polite manner.
I find that doctors and lawyers have some of the most fascinating stories. It's interesting to see what the human body can endure and what it is that people are able to achieve given whatever constraints they have. It's fascinating, man. Well, okay, let's make it a little bit more lighthearted. We've been talking about magnets. We've been talking about amoebas. We spent some time talking about technology. What do you want to talk about? What are you thinking about these days?
Well, that Orwell quote was pretty interesting.
Absolutely.
I definitely think it's very apropos.
What I'd say about this, one of the reasons I like these quotes about control and hypnotism in media is that we have seen a consolidation in media in unique and interesting ways. So just like we talked before we jumped on this call about Elon Musk buying Twitter, you take a guy who's one of the wealthiest men that's ever lived, who has taken securities from his company Tesla, sells them as collateral to buy Twitter, and then have access to ultimately that consumer on the other end of that screen. And you have Amazon buy MGM. You have these companies that are massive, massive organizations that have the ability to talk to you in ways that you don't necessarily know. And that's why I started off with my legal stuff in the podcasting space or webcasting space to explain things. Say, this is not what you think it is. Like, I used the one we talked about earlier this week was a thing called a nuclear verdict. Now, everyone's heard there's a nuclear verdict in trucking. And you might think, oh, is that like Hiroshima or Nagasaki? Hundreds of thousands of people die. No, typically it's when a verdict is returned for over $10 million. Now, the Department of Transportation actually has a number for the value of a human life. And that value is like $11 million. So like, it's not a nuclear verdict. It's just a phrase used to manipulate somebody into thinking, Oh, those plaintiff lawyers, they're a bunch of sharks stealing from the
So
hardworking
true.
businesses. And it's like, I just want to have something that I can say from this perspective. I am unbiased. Now, I am biased in the sense that I fear amoebas drastically.
It's deep. Yeah, very much. Yeah, it's
a primal
inborn.
fear. So
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, I don't want anything inside my brain. What are some health tips? As we talk about amoebas, what are some health tips you'd recommend?
Well, besides the swallowing of magnets, I'd have to say, if you're gonna squirt water up your nose, don't squirt dirty water up your nose.
Can it be lake water? If the water looks clean, is that okay?
If it looks clean, okay, just go for it. But if it's got some specks in it, you maybe want to boil it. And then, I guess it depends on the type of magnet too. The earth magnets are much more natural. So you don't want
that synthetic magnet. No, yeah, in your body. You don't want that synthetic garbage.
No, you can't have that.
Well, here's some practical advice I would think would be good. And you can tell me, you can say, Matt, that sounds reasonable or not. People should walk more. They should walk. They should exercise more. Probably
Absolutely.
Have less processed foods, less fast food, maybe.
Less fast food. Yeah, for sure.
Maybe stand up every couple hours if you're sitting a lot.
This is all good. Yeah. Did you go to med school?
That's what I figured.
Who am I?
I could probably make a motion in to become a medical doctor. No, I don't.
Oh, I bet you could. Yeah.
I don't want to deal with the insurance companies. You're so benign to those organizations. You don't have. I dealt with them. They're wonderful and very, very skeptical of what you invoice them.
I doubt I'm worth $11 million to them, but I mean, maybe alive. But yeah, I don't know. Dead, probably not.
I think, human life is an interesting thing. It's a very fickle thing. Yes. I find that human life is so fragile. I mean, we have this very short window of time, and I want to be able to help people when they spend time doing something, not to be, I'm going to stop what I'm saying. LaTanya, yes, Dr. Matt. Yeah. Maybe we should change that. I don't know I could add Esquire or J. How many I can call myself a doctor? I don't think so. But it would be nice.
My favorite is when people put bachelor's degrees in there. So you could put BA, JD.
Oh yeah, get them all.
You can get a naturopathic,
I will say, in terms of how you're supposed to talk about your postgraduate degrees, if you put a doctor in the front, but you also have an MBA or a JD, it is generally improper to do doctor and then have those other initials. Generally speaking, you have your full name, then you have MB, JD, whatever else. I don't know that that's actually true, but it feels very true to me.
So I'm going to correct.
If that's what I want. It's all an illusion. Everything we do here.
That's right. We were talking about objective reality, not objective, sorts of things. So yeah, it's all, it's just subjective, isn't
it? It's so good. So again, for the people who have joined in for us, we're at the last couple of minutes of our broadcast. I am just so full of joy for you and your family. I know you have some great things that are coming. And if you could give a message to your kids, they just, because here's the thing, these things stick around. They are here. Why I started doing this more than anything was I have no videos of my father. I have a couple of VHS that exist that have my father in his prime when he's 37, 38 and whatever. And I have no memory of those times, but I know that when I make these things, they last. So I would like you, if you could, if you're willing, to give a couple of, little thoughts to your kids.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's all you, man. It's all you.
Wow. Oh man, William, right now you're very into composers, and we didn't force that on you. That's just something that came naturally, and it's really awesome. So I hope that love of music has continued and grown. Who knows what you're doing now, but I know it will be really, really great. You can already tell you're going to be amazing. And Audrey, she is a force to be reckoned with. I think she's going to be the first person on Mars, is my guess. Is she's very petite, so she'd be great in some kind of rocket ship. And she has no fear, unlike William and myself, who are born with many fears, just tons of fears. She is born with no fears. She'll climb the biggest thing and jump off the biggest thing. So my thought is, yeah, Audrey, you're probably in space right now. So if you're listening to me, you know, I'm very proud that you're on the way to Mars, or maybe you're already on Mars. But yeah, if you're the first person on Mars, I guess I'd be proud of that. That's pretty good. But I think that you'll probably colonize more than one planet, would be my guess. I guess that's all I got on them. I mean, yeah, I think you have some news and stuff too, but I don't know.
we broke my news last week. I had talked to Judge Aquilina about us having twins before we started recording, and then we're talking, and she's like, "Yeah, and you're having twins." I'm like, "Oh," and then we broke the news, so we got there. I will say, maybe for a future video interview, we spend more time talking about interstellar space travel, because I have some concerns about Mars. Its mass is not going to hold an atmosphere. There's a lot of challenges there. But
yeah, it might not be the right one to, to be going towards.
Audrey will figure out the best place for us all. That's the main thing.
She will. She'll wherever she'll be. She's going to be like the badass chick mechanic that's like on the outside, like fixing stuff,
welding it in space.
Yeah, like. Yeah.
Well,
awesome.
For the folks who have stuck around with us for the whole episode, I want to go ahead and say thank you for watching the Uncertainty Hour. Every week, we're going to try and do a new one. When we do these, the timing is always uncertain, because I am asking people to take time out of their lives and out of their professions to spend an hour with me talking about things that they're passionate about, that they know about, and that they want to communicate to the outside world. So we were at 7 p.m. one day. We're at 2 p.m. today. We will continue to do this. And if there's people that want to learn more about the folks that come on this program, please let me know. And as always, thank you for tuning in to the Uncertainty Hour with your host, Matthew Leffler, the Armchair Attorney. And then I hit the end broadcast button, Mike, and then we're still talking, but this thing ends. So I end the broadcast.